The last photo before everything changed, Kentucky. What if the person smiling beside you in vacation photos already knew the relationship was ending? Kentucky couple, island resort, 4:18 p.m. The sunlight looked soft in every picture. The ocean behind them barely moved. And in Brielle Sutton's final video clip, her smile disappeared half a second before the recording ended. Most people watching those engagement photos saw peace. Detectives later saw distance. Brielle Sutton, 27 years old. Brielle had spent months planning the trip with careful excitement. She packed color-coded outfits, saved restaurant lists, even carried a half-written postcard for her mother inside her tote bag. But people close to her later admitted something had changed weeks before the vacation. Her voice notes became shorter, her replies slower, and for the first time in years, she stopped talking about the wedding. Fiancé, Mason Whitaker. Mason arrived at the island quieter than usual. According to resort staff, the couple barely spoke during check-in. Not angry, not loud, just a silence that felt strangely heavy. The kind couples carry when conversations have already happened somewhere else. Day 1, 5:42 p.m. A ferry dock worker later remembered seeing Brielle standing alone near the railing that evening. Wind moving through her hair. Phone pressed against her ear, repeating the same sentence twice. "I'll explain everything when I get home." But she never explained anything, because less than 48 hours later, the engagement trip would become the center of a Kentucky investigation that left even experienced detectives unsettled. And one small detail from the resort room would quietly destroy Mason Whitaker's entire version of events. But one detail didn't add up. What kind of engagement trip ends with someone apologizing to their family without saying why? 11:16 a.m. The second morning felt strangely quiet. No beach photos. No restaurant videos. No laughing clips like the day before. Instead, Brielle sent a voice note to her younger brother. Her tone sounded tired, careful, like someone trying not to be overheard. "Hey, don't worry if I'm distant right now. We'll talk when I get back home. Okay?" That message would later replay hundreds of times during the investigation. Because Ty noticed something immediately. Brielle never ended calls early with family. Never. 3 hours later, resort staff later confirmed the couple skipped a prepaid island tour they had booked months earlier. The tickets remained untouched at the front desk. And sometime that afternoon, someone inside room 804 requested fresh towels after what staff described as a loud private disagreement. But when housekeeping arrived, the room had gone completely silent. How does someone vanish from a vacation while all their personal belongings stay behind? Room 804, 4:47 p.m. When housekeeping finally entered the suite, nothing looked fully packed. Brielle's cardigan still hung beside the balcony door. Her silver water bottle sat unopened near the bed. And inside the mini fridge, a pineapple soda she had specifically asked staff to chill earlier that morning remained untouched. That detail stayed with investigators, because according to Brielle's brother, she opened pineapple soda before drinking anything else. Always. Mason later claimed she needed space after another argument. Said she walked out alone to clear her head. But surveillance footage from the resort lobby created a problem almost immediately. Cameras captured Mason leaving the building. Alone. Fast pace. Looking down repeatedly at his phone. But Brielle never appeared in the footage behind him. Not once. The investigation changed completely when detectives realized 1 hour of Mason's story couldn't be verified. Kentucky State Police timeline review. First, Mason sounded calm, measured, cooperative. He told investigators Brielle left the resort after an emotional argument and never returned. But phone records quietly revealed something else. Phone activity, 6:13 p.m. Brielle's phone stopped moving long before Mason claimed she walked out. No calls, no searches, no messages, nothing. Then another detail surfaced. A ferry dock employee remembered seeing Mason near the marina later that evening, alone, pacing, checking over his shoulder repeatedly. And according to surveillance timestamps, he returned to the resort carrying something investigators could not clearly identify. But one missing minute changed everything, because between two camera angles, exactly 57 seconds disappeared from the footage timeline, and detectives began asking a question no one at the resort wanted to answer. Where was Brielle Sutton before Mason ever left that room? Sometimes the most terrifying clue isn't what someone says, it's what they almost say. Investigators eventually recovered deleted audio drafts from Brielle's phone. Most were incomplete, barely a few seconds long, but one recording stopped detectives cold. At first, only ocean wind could be heard. Then Brielle's voice quietly entered the recording. Shaky, breathing unevenly. I don't think he's telling me the whole. The message cut off instantly. No explanation. No second attempt. Deleted 4 minutes later. That same afternoon, forensic analysts uncovered another problem inside Mason's timeline. His phone GPS briefly placed him near a restricted maintenance road behind the resort, a location he never mentioned during questioning. And when detectives confronted him about it, his answers started changing. Small details first, then entire sections of the night. The moment investigators stopped looking inside the room and started following the path she might have taken. Forensic rebuild, room 804 and island map. Detectives returned to room 804 one last time. This time, they weren't searching for what was missing. They were reconstructing movement, step by step. When they reviewed the physical layout again, something subtle stood out. Brielle's belongings were not arranged like someone who left calmly. Her sandals were near the doorway, not packed, not placed, positioned like they had been kicked off in a hurry. But the real shift was outside. Security teams expanded the timeline beyond the resort. Island camera logs, ferry dock timestamps, maintenance road sensors. That's when a gap appeared. A 42-minute window where Brielle's phone briefly reconnected near the island shoreline, then went silent completely. Mason Whitaker re-interviewed. When confronted with the island-wide timeline, Mason's story began to fracture. Not in one place, but everywhere at once. A turn he didn't mention, a stop he forgot, a direction that didn't match any recorded route. By the end of the interview, he was no longer explaining what happened inside the room, but trying to account for movements across the island. And then detectives found the break point. A single ferry worker statement changed the direction of the case. Because Brielle was seen after she allegedly left the resort. Still on the island. Still alive. Still walking alone toward a restricted coastal path that never appeared on Mason's version of events. The case didn't end with a missing person. It ended with what the island refused to hide any longer. Kentucky State Police, final reconstruction. When detectives finally connected every timestamp, the truth formed a single continuous path. Brielle had left room 804 alive. She walked out alone and followed a coastal route that wasn't on any tourist map. Island trail, restricted pathway. Security logs confirmed her last movement near the shoreline steps. Footprints matched her sandals, then stopped abruptly near the edge where the terrain drops into dense coastal rock. Nothing was staged. Nothing was missing. Just silence. Mason Whitaker, final statement. Faced with the complete timeline reconstruction, Mason finally broke. Not in confusion, but in exhaustion. His final statement confirmed the argument didn't stay inside the resort. It followed her outside, and investigators closed the case with one conclusion. Brielle Sutton never vanished from the island. She was taken from the only path she thought was safe. Justice confirmed. Case closed. The evidence led to formal charges. The island that once held silence now held accountability. And for the first time since the investigation began, there were no gaps left to fill. Back in Kentucky, her family kept the small things. The sunflower water bottle, the unfinished postcard, and one voice note that still plays softly in an empty house. We'll talk when I get back home. They never did. But now they know why. Justice delivered, but never enough. Subscribe to the Veil of Secret for more true crime stories that uncover what silence tries to hide.